Oof. I really don't want to fuck this video up. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite horror movies, actually my second favorite horror movie, and that is Midsommar, or Midsommar. I'm not sure how you say it exactly. I'm going to be calling it Midsommar. If it's Midsommar, just let me know in the comments. This is actually a follow-up film to Hereditary, which was also made by Ari Aster. And Hereditary is actually my favorite horror movie of all time, and Midsommar just falls right beneath it for me. If you guys want to see me do a video on that too, I will. I'll put it up in the playlist for Telly time, which is what I'm putting all of these movie discussion videos in. So feel free to check that playlist out on my channel anytime as well. Someone recommended me to do Midsommar, and I just jumped at that idea because I had loved this movie so much, and the fact that somebody who subscribed to me wants to see that just really pushed me further to do it. It's really interesting to me that Ari Aster is actually the creator of both of these films, so I guess that makes me an Ari Aster fan. Ari Aster seems to have this really good sense of direction when he's making his films, and what these films do really well, other than obviously giving us a really intriguing story, amazing characters, and just excellent theming throughout. Something about the films is just like super creepy. Like, it's like genuine horror. It's not the kind of horror where it's like bah in your face, the cheap kind of horror. Like, this is horror to an extreme of disturbing. It's disturbing horror, and like, man, I really can see myself in this character's shoes and see myself doing something this terrible, if that makes any sense to you. It's shared to us as the viewer really well in the way that Ari Aster directs these films. I feel like I've gone a little bit off topic, but I wanted to give some sort of prelude to what this movie is about. So, Midsommar is a movie about a girl going through a breakup, and it is the ultimate breakup movie. And when I say this, I mean this in like, obviously it's a horror movie, but like, I can still view this as a breakup movie. Anyone out there whose significant other's not treating them right, just watch this movie and you'll figure out what to do. Oh boy, where do I start? Again, I really don't want to fuck up this video because I love this movie to death. So the movie starts with a picture, actually, and it's like this design of, I guess it's kind of telling you what's gonna happen throughout the movie, but really cryptically. And it's done with this music that already sets the tone for the film. It's really creepy, but also beautiful at the same time. And you know, that's a really good way to describe this movie. Beautiful, but creepy. I do also want to point out, again, not to get off topic so much, but Ari Aster's use of music and sounds in these movies is amazing. Like, the music is always really haunting. In this case, you know, with Midsommar, it's really pretty and creepy, like I've already mentioned. And also, like, the sounds that you hear throughout the movie just kind of accentuate that. It's all just so well done. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie, I recommend you watch it, and preferably before watching this video, because I'm gonna spoil a lot of things, because this is kind of like some, you know, as I talk about this, I talk about my thoughts on it, so I'm going to be talking about everything that happens in the movie. So right after we get past this photo with this creepy, ominous, beautiful music that's playing, we get to see our main character, Danny, right away. Fun fact, Danny's the name of my best friend, so shout outs to her. She's probably never going to watch this video because she's a little bitch. And also, she's the one who showed me this movie in the first place. What a coinkydink. Anyhow, so Danny is leaving a voicemail to presumably her sister. I don't know, they haven't been staying in touch or some shit. And it's really odd because usually her sister's always hitting her up. So her sister apparently has these like mental issues, and that's why she's always hitting Danny up. And so Danny's obviously rightfully worried. So beyond the phone call, the voicemail that we're getting to hear, you know, we see that she's tried everything. She's texted, she's emailed, no response, nothing. Not only can Danny not get a hold of her sister, but her boyfriend's a piece of shit. And we get to see that in the scene where he's just hanging out with his group of dudes, right? And she's telling him, you know, like, I'm worried about my sister. And he's like, ugh, whatever. Like, he obviously doesn't care. he's talking to his friends, you know, and they're like, why haven't you broken up with her, dude? You obviously want to. And he's like, yeah, I'm just trying to find a time. So he wants to break up with her, and I don't know, you know, why. She seems like a great girl. I mean, obviously at the beginning of this movie, we don't know that she's a great girl, but as the movie goes on, I think she's a pretty great gal. So yes, this is pretty much gonna tell me that her boyfriend's a piece of shit, and I'm gonna stand by that from here on. And as this is all going on, we get a shot of Danny's family. They're just laying in bed peacefully. Or so we think. But surprise, big shocker, they're actually dead. They're not just laying there peacefully, they're laying there like eternally peacefully. And eventually the shot kind of zooms over to Danny's sister, who has this like gas hose just down her mouth and obviously dead from inhaling this gas. And I guess that's what happened to the parents too. I mean, that's what you end up inferring from the scene. And back to what Ari Aster seems to do best with his films. We get this really disturbing scene of Danny crying like bloody murder to her boyfriend because she just found out that her family's dead, you know? Okay, so a few more scenes go by, and to sum these scenes up, I'm just gonna go right into it. Piece of shit boyfriend and all his friends are gathering together because they want to do this trip to Sweden, right? Because one of the friends is from Sweden and has invited them all to go meet his family or whatever, and they can all have a dandy time. Meanwhile, Danny's obviously not having the best of times because her entire family just died, and all she has is her piece of shit boyfriend who's gonna break up with her and she doesn't know it. So not a very good position for her to be in, and man, I really feel for her. Basically, her piece of shit boyfriend does feel obligated to invite her to Sweden with them. He doesn't think she's gonna actually come, however, and he even tells that to his friends when he breaks the news to him that he invited her. Of course, his friends are not so happy about it, and they're like, come on man, just break up with her. And you know, I think he's just putting it off even more at this point because she's going through this rough time. But she seems like a good girlfriend though. Like, she's so sweet and cool. Like, she seems really fucking cool. What the fuck? Plus her name is Danny, and Danny's are usually fucking cool. Or maybe I'm just biased because my best friend. Anyhow, to everyone's surprise, Danny's like, what do you mean guys? Of course I'm coming. And so here comes our story. We wouldn't have a movie if she didn't go with them to Sweden. But you know what? I am damn glad about it because I would be so sad if we never had this movie. I guess I would be indifferent because I wouldn't know about the movie and therefore I couldn't be sad about it. I mean, technically I didn't know about the movie until I was shown it by my best friend Danny anyway, so. Johnny, quit fucking this video up. Stay on topic. Now, let me go ahead and introduce the friends by what I'm going to be referring to them as. So we have the piece of shit boyfriend, Christian, who I'm probably just going to refer to as the piece of shit boyfriend this entire time. Then we got Pell, the Swedish dude, who is inviting everyone to Sweden because this is his little group that he's taking them all to. And I'm probably just going to call him the Swedish dude, honestly. Then we have Mark, and he's like the dark-haired boy who's just plain an asshole. Like, how else am I going to describe him? He's just an asshole. Can I just call him asshole? I'm just gonna call him asshole. No, because then you guys might confuse that with piece of shit. Alright, so we'll call him Mark, but just remember, Mark's an asshole. Then we have Josh, and he's the studious one out of the group, and he wants to write some sort of like thesis or something on wherever they're going in Sweden. I don't even know. That's pretty much it for the main cast, but don't let the small size fool you. These are some quality characters. They each serve a very meaningful purpose throughout the film though, so I guess that's more accurate. Now obviously there's going to be more characters that pop up, but we'll talk about those as they come because this is our main group. These are all of the Americans that are going to this trip to Sweden. So with all that, we're off. They're on their way to Sweden, starting with a plane, and then eventually getting in a car and driving. God, I just fucking love this one shot when they're driving though, because it just sets up the fact that they're going into this like unknown world, and they're driving, right? And the camera starts normal, and then it just like, as they're driving, turns upside down. Just watch it. Just look at it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. symbolism and the camera work both together. Wet dream. So they finally get to their destination and they start meeting up with this dude's family, or, you know, I guess like group of people that he grew up with. And they're obviously of their own, you know, like sort of religion and ways. They're these people that all live under this set of rules that only they seem to follow. Like, I don't think anywhere else in the world follows the same rules as this group. And so, you know, what's the first thing that you do when you meet a group of people like this? Take drugs from them, obviously, right? Right? Because, I mean, that's what the characters do. Why not? Why not take drugs from this unknown group of people who obviously have a very different religion from anyone that you've ever known in America, and that you don't know, they're complete strangers. Just take drugs from them. Sure. Yeah. Makes total sense. It's not candy or nothing. Just drugs. So, they do that. And Danny starts having a bad trip. As she was having this bad trip, it was really taking me back to a time that I do not want to think about. She's seeing some hallucinations of things, and they range from people that aren't there in a dark bathroom to becoming one with the grass. So, obviously, I think, you know, being one with the grass is kind of what they want you to feel when you take these drugs. Like, yes, let's be one with nature as we do these drugs, but like the hallucinations taken a little bit too far, and I think that was, you know, obviously a bad trip. And she's like struggling, breathing, and she eventually just like goes to the woods while like on her way all these people are laughing at her that she doesn't know, and this like elder from the group tells her like, no, they're not laughing at you, they're probably just laughing at something else. And honestly, we don't know if they were laughing at her or something else because she's having a bad trip and we don't know what's real and what's not, even as the viewer. And yeah, she goes to the woods and she passes out. Damn it, I'm fucking up this video. I can't even talk straight. So she eventually wakes up to her boyfriend and his friends, you know, all there. And surprisingly, you know, like this group of strangers didn't do anything to her. So they must be good people. And once they get her up, they all go to the main area that this group lives in. And I'm gonna go ahead and point out, this whole movie mostly takes place during the daytime. There's a big emphasis on the daytime and nature and the beauty of it all. So when they get to this main area, you'll notice that there's like these structures and everything is really symmetrical and pretty. So in this main area, the group, clan, we'll call them a clan. The clan is all like having this sort of celebration, celebrating the oldest two members of their clan. And it's an older man and an older woman, and I think they're about to turn 72. They have like this time, like, or they just turned 72 or something like that. And they're celebrating them and the fact that they're 72. Now, there are two more characters that were introduced here, and I think they're also American, and I'm assuming were also invited by the Swedish dude as well. And it's a boyfriend and girlfriend. Connie is the girl, and Simon is the boy. They both come off as really smart intellectuals, and, you know, they're obviously good company for our characters to have. I'm just pointing them out because they're going to be coming up as the movie progresses, and this is where we basically see them for the first time. Now, the piece of shit boyfriend is sitting down in like a picnic towel with Connie and Simon. And as he's sitting there, this redhead girl who's part of the clan is like dancing around with all the rest of the girls in the clan, and as she's dancing around them, she kicks the piece of shit boyfriend and is like very obviously like, look at me, you know, like... Sure, she's not showing her boobs off, but you get it, like, she's totally being flirtatious. Worth noting also, when they're all getting shown to where they're gonna be sleeping, there's a random bear in a cage. We don't know why, just, it's randomly a bear. And they also walk by this very long poster of pictures. It's basically showing us an event that's gonna take place later in the movie. And none of the characters see it as they walk by it, but I'll get to explaining what exactly happens here later when it actually happens in the movie. This was just sort of the movie's way of foreshadowing what's gonna happen, and it's like, you really don't want it to because it's pretty gross. But sure enough, Ari Aster is here to make all of our best wishes come true. Our characters are all shown their sleeping quarters, and there's a baby that won't stop crying, like, ever. Like at night, in the day, just always crying. God, I hate babies. Now the next day, our characters gather around with the clan, and they're all gathering for a feast. It's here in this shot that you see all of our characters, you know, just kind of like spread into the clan. And you'll notice the clan all wear these like all white outfits. And then meanwhile, all of our American characters that we've been observing throughout this movie are wearing dark colors, kind of like the shirt I'm wearing right here. It's a really interesting divide. Like, you can tell that there's a big difference between them and their cultures. On top of this, the shots are all very symmetrical. You see symmetrical objects, you see symmetrical buildings, like there's like this like triangular tent thing behind them. The tables make like a perfect X, you know, it's all super symmetrical. And this shows you, like, this clan is really organized, and they obviously very much enjoy beauty of the world, whether it be natural or not. I guess it's mostly natural, but like, it's almost as if everything that they built and placed in nature is to complement nature. Once again, the feast is celebrating the 72-year-olds, and they do this really weird hummy thingy, you know, obviously very weird, and it's just another sign that this whole culture and belief system that these people have is very different from us. Now, the event that they've had planned for today, this is a day after all of our characters have arrived. So a night has passed, they all tried to sleep with the baby crying and all that, like I already talked about. This is the next day that they're having a feast. So there's an event that the Swedish dude has been telling them was going to go on today, and it obviously has something to do with the 72-year-olds. And now's the time, after they feast, that we get to see what happens. They all walk over to this giant, towering stone rock thingy that, like, loops over this one area, you know, kind of like Nightmare Before Christmas style, but think much taller and much brighter, like it's not dark. And the characters, our characters, are all like, well, what's gonna happen, huh? And next thing you know, you see a little head peek out from above when you look at the rock. And as soon as you see this, as the viewer, your first thought is like, oh no, they are not about to jump. Now, the characters kind of like slowly came to this thought process of like, oh man, are they gonna jump? The woman, 72-year-old, jumps off. And in a very graphic scene, we see her land. All the gory details. Nice. Obviously, this is not going over well with any of the Americans, and Danny is kind of like in her own zone of like, oh my god, like, like I don't need any more death in my life, like, and I just watched someone die, and she's obviously having this moment to herself about it. Meanwhile, you can hear this muffled audio because, like, right now we are literally in Danny's head. Like, the audio kind of, like, cuts to this very coded sound where, like, you can hardly hear anything but, like, some numbness that's going on in Danny's mind right now, right? So you hear this muffled yelling of one of the Americans, and you look over, and it's Simon. Remember Simon? I talked about him. He's the one who was with Connie. They're the two other Americans that were there, invited by the Swedish dude, who weren't friends with the piece of shit boyfriend beforehand. Blah. He's like freaking out and yelling at one of the elder women. And as he's freaking out about this, we see another head peek up from above the rock. And of course, it's the gentleman, older man, 72-year-old. You get it. The other older person, that's the dude. They're about to jump as well. So while the dude's freaking out and Danny's still in her little zone, she also witnesses this man jump off, and he just goes falling. However, he does not die when he lands. Instead, he's still alive, gasping for air as his lower body is completely shattered and broken. Yes, once again, it's very gory and graphic, and we see all of it. But it doesn't stop there. So everyone in the clan is like yelling, like, "Ah, ah." Is that a good enough imitation for you? Like it's a disgrace that he didn't die when he landed. two of the older people from the clan that are still, you know, obviously not 70 or something, they're probably in like 50s or 60s, come up with these giant hammers, and they start hammering his head. And yes, once again, we see all of it, and it's very graphic and gory and gross. And this is obviously not going well with the Americans either, so the freakouts just like get more and more. But one of the elders is explaining to Simon, she's like, well, this is our culture. We don't run from death. We don't, you know, we're not scared of it. We welcome it. And this is our way of welcoming it. We celebrate it. Yes, it's pretty fucked up, but like I also get it. You know, like all of our time's gonna come, and you know, these people have lived a long life. I mean, I obviously don't support the idea of just killing someone off when they reach 72 years old, or, you know, any age. But I can also see why a culture would develop that thought process, and how you, like, I can see myself respecting it if I was in their presence, you know? Like, I wouldn't want to be that person. I wouldn't want to be that American, which, funny enough, our two most intelligent people are being right now, being Simon and Connie. I thought they were the most intelligent, so I'm surprised that they freaked out more than everyone else. After this event, obviously, Danny is in a sort of stasis. She wasn't ready for seeing death again. You know, she came on this trip right after her family died, and was probably hoping that she'd be able to get away from the idea of death in general, you know? Like, I can only imagine. She's not well, and she's not taking this very well, and she wants to just leave, right? Obviously, a lot of the other people want to leave as well, mainly Simon and Connie. Simon disappears, and one of the elders, a male elder, tells Connie that he already left, and she's like, why would he leave without me? And he said, well, maybe because there was only one seat in the car to take them to the airport. And she's like, I could have just sat on his lap, you know, like he wouldn't leave without me. And that's obviously very fishy. Sure enough, Connie disappears shortly thereafter. Meanwhile, piece of shit boyfriend and studious fellow Josh are having a conversation about how piece of shit boyfriend also wants to write a thesis on this clan, and Josh is obviously not very happy about it, because he's like, no, that's my piece, my story. They have this little spout, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, this is a little argument that they have, and it obviously shows a conflict in interests that is going to later come back and bite one of them in the ass later. Danny is eventually persuaded to stay by the Swedish man, so later on, asshole dude, Mark, I think his name was, goes off to take a little piss. And instead of going into the forest to take a piss where people can't even see him, he pisses on this, like, tree that's just, like, laid out in the open. I don't know why. Personally, once again, I would just go in the forest if I was gonna pee out in a woodland area and not an actual bathroom or whatever. I don't know if they even had actual bathrooms. Yeah, actually, they did have actual bathrooms, so what the fuck, dude? One of the elders sees him pissing on the tree and is like, that's our sacred tree, all of our ancestors' ashes are sprinkled upon it. So long story short, Mark fucked up hella big time. Deadass, no cap, on God. That's gonna come back to bite him in the ass later. Okay, so our studious fellow Josh is talking to one of the village elders, and the elder is showing him this book, which is basically the clan's version of like a Bible of sorts. And he's explaining to Josh the rules and regulations that they go by for their religion and beliefs and everything here in this clan are written by those who see beyond the rest of us. Yes, the mentally challenged one. So let's put this in perspective. This clan believes that someone who is mentally challenged, probably created through inbred, I think they said something about like they breed, you know, between each other in order to have someone like this, draws things, and they have an interpreter to interpret it. And so that is how they've got their entire belief system and rules system formed. So I think this is a direct statement about religion as a whole. I think this is a statement on we let people who obviously don't think very clearly or the most aware of people write these books and things, and we just believe it and make an entire belief system out of it. I think this is a direct comparison to Christianity and any other religion out there. I find it very interesting. Obviously, this is an extreme case, like this is brought to level 100, when in real life it's probably some sort of lower level when you think about how it's formed. But then again, it's a higher level in real life when you think about the scope of how many people it's affected. So either way, yikes. Now Josh wants to take a picture of this book, everything that they teach in it, and the elder says, no, absolutely not, what are you, crazy? So Josh gets the bright idea that he's gonna sneak in at night to take pictures of this book. I'm sure that this whole topic's gonna come up again later and bite someone in the ass. I'm sure of it. Moving right along though, we are treated to another feasting scene. This time with the asshole dude, Mark, looking around, and everyone in the clan is giving him like the stank eye. As they should, he pissed on their ancestors. Like, I can't blame them here. Piece of shit boyfriend is, throughout this movie, has been slowly becoming kind of disconnected from everyone else. You know, the other Americans, even Danny, and is like in his own little world. And in this scene, we really see that even more. As they're eating, he finds a pube in his food. And it's obviously like a red pube, you know, and that girl who's been flirting with him is a redhead, and he looks at her and she's like, everyone thinks that it was just kind of an accident, somehow it got in there, or whatever, you know, and Danny's obviously like not saying anything on the subject. And she's probably still reeling from everything that's happened so far. She probably can't even think about the idea of like someone putting a pube in someone's food right now. On top of this though, I want to make a period joke, but like I'm really bad at it. So this is actually what that poster was showing earlier that I mentioned. And it was, in the poster, it showed a woman of the clan shaving off her pubes and putting them into some food. And having her period and leaking the period blood into a drink and giving both of these things to a man. When you see the poster earlier in the movie, you're like, oh, that's gross and disturbing. Are they really showing us this? I mean, I deduced it might come up later. I don't know if everyone would deduce that right away, or if they would solidly deduce... God, I can't talk. If they would like solidly deduce that this was gonna be a thing later on in the movie. Sure enough, here we are in this scene. And he's eating pubes out of a meal, and then... his drink is noticeably darker than everyone else's drink. So everyone else's drink is like a yellowish orange. His drink is like a reddish orange. And we know, as the audience, we know because we saw that poster earlier that all these people didn't see. As soon as he's like takes the pube out, he's just like, huh, puts it down, and then like drinks out of the glass of the like juice stuff that's obviously darker. We know it's with period blood. De-fucking-sturbing. Basically, I think this is her way of seducing him. And it seems to be working. Gross. So later that night, of course Josh is like, well, now that everyone's asleep, let me just go ahead and snap some photos of that Bible thing that they all have, and no one's ever gonna know, and no one totally expects me to come in and snap pictures, even though I asked the question earlier. Yeah, so he goes, and he goes to snap the pictures, and someone comes in and hits him in the head, and you see it's the face of Mark, the asshole who pissed on the sacred tree. But it's like really messed up. I think what it was is his face was skinned, and this was someone else just wearing his face. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, because why would Mark hit him? So his face was skinned, and this person wearing this face mask of Mark's face, like, hit him. So Josh is knocked out too, he goes missing as well. Big surprise. So now everyone that's gone missing has been Connie, Simon, Mark, and Josh. now we're pretty much just left with our main character Danny and her piece of shit boyfriend Christian, I think his name is. And then of course, Swedish guy and his whole clan. So now is time for the May Day festival. It's the next day, and for some reason Danny and Christian don't even pay any sort of worry to the fact that everyone they came with is missing. But whatever. Let's celebrate the May Day Pride Parade, whatever thing. Once again, the clan is offering them a drug of sorts, this time in the form of a liquid. And all of the clan members are taking it, right? So of course Danny and Christian do, after some sort of, questioning on what it is. This stuff turns out to be really strong, and Danny starts to go on another trip. This time it doesn't end up being a bad trip though. Instead what happens is all of the women gather around this centerpiece, and they all hold hands and dance around while they're, hired drunk or whatever they are off their shit from this drug thing that they drank. Long story short, in this really big, hallucinogen scene, Danny is the last one standing. All the other girls end up falling because they get too dizzy or whatever, worked up from the mojo. And because Danny is the last one standing, this makes her the Mayday Queen. I'm sorry, I want to take a moment again. I feel like I'm not playing this up enough, but this movie just looks so beautiful with all these scenes and all these shots and the way they're filmed and just the setting and everything, the colors they pop, it's all so gorgeous. Danny's the Mayday Queen, whatever. Yes, we got that much established, okay? And at the same time, while everyone's congratulating her and celebrating her and dressing her up in these flowers, we see her piece of shit boyfriend going on his own separate journey and his own separate trip, basically being led over to that redhead girl who's been seducing him all movie. Just further, showing us that he really is a piece of shit. And they get him to take all of his clothes off and get hard. And he enters this room with the redhead girl from the clan. And there's other girls from the clan just gathered around her in a circle while she's laying there naked. He goes in, he fucks her. Let's just cut straight to the point. That's what happens. But it takes the scene drags out of them fucking and the girls around moaning with her. As the redhead girl is moaning, the other clan member girls in the room are also moaning with her. They're all sharing in her pleasure. And the dude's kind of what the fuck, as he looks around, but he still goes in anyway. He keeps going. Whatever, you do you, dude. Back to Danny, though. Danny is being celebrated as the May Queen, and they're dressing her up in even more flowers. And you can see in these shots, because she's fucked up or because everyone's fucked up, I don't know. I guess that's the statement that's being made. As she's just standing there, and it's not even in her view, we see the flowers and stuff on her breathing. The flowers are pulsating as if they're taking breaths. It's really creepy. So the women are trying to distract Danny, from what they obviously know is going on with the redhead girl and Danny's piece of shit boyfriend. Because it seems to be that the entire clan was in on this whole seduction thing and they all wanted it to happen. Probably to try and breed a new member of the clan who has the sight, basically is mentally challenged. Because they're both redheads, they think it's a possibility. I don't know exactly why they want it, but it seems like that might be the case. But Danny eventually is no, where is he? I want to go see him. So even though she's been taken around in the chariot and everything, she doesn't want that. She wants to go find her boyfriend. So she goes and searches around, and yeah, she finds him fucking the redhead, and she is just this poor girl. This is too much for her right now, on top of everything. So she runs away, right? And she starts crying her eyes out. The dude can't hear her. Her boyfriend can't hear her because it's so loud in that room with everyone moaning at the same time. And as Danny's crying, another group of girls that were in the Mayday celebration with her are circled around her and they're crying with her. Almost like they're mocking her. I guess there's two ways you can interpret this. When I first watched it, I thought it was because they were mocking her. As she cried, they were making fun of her for crying, and it was almost like an insult, a slap to the face, if you will. But upon further analysis of this movie, I'm pretty sure, just like how the women in the sex room are sharing in the pleasure of the redhead girl, the women and that's over here with Danny are sharing in the pain of Danny that Danny's feeling. And I'm pretty sure that's the right way to go about it, because if you think about it, the entire clan has seemed very unified, like a single unit. They all think alike, and they all, intermingle in everything in a way that seems to breathe as one. So sharing in pleasure and pain kind of really goes with their whole belief system is based around or something. And we get this back and forth between the scene of everyone sharing in the pleasure in the sex room and everyone sharing in the pain in Danny's room. And it's a really, really disturbing scene. I shouldn't downplay that because it is really disturbing. If you'll notice, this movie is disturbing in really weird ways. It's not even necessarily the gore or anything that's that disturbing. It's how different this clan is compared to everything we know. And I'll go ahead and state this now as opposed to later, because I honestly might forget later. But this whole movie seems to be playing on our human fear of the unknown, of people and cultures that are different to us and lands far away, that there's a whole fear that comes with that. And this movie plays on that really well in several different ways, not even in a death way, just in a general, these people are so different, it's weird way. But in some ways it's also beautiful. I find it really interesting how everyone's sharing and their feelings. They work as a unit and they live as a unit and they care about each other on it seems to be a deeper level. But then again, this might also be another play on religion and how it can make you feel like everyone around you is supporting you, but really there's a dark and sinister undertone. And yes, I think that's it, because as I'm about to talk about another part coming up, that seems to sum it up really well. And I'll get to that in a sec, I promise. But first we have to have our big revelation scene for our main characters. And after Christian has sex with the girl, I think he realizes that he done fucked up, because he came in her and she's wiggling back and forth like a cradle, and speaking in another language saying I can feel the baby. I don't think he can understand her, but I think he understands what just happened. So he starts, rightfully freaking out, and he runs out of the sex room and running around the outside, and he sees this group of people, carrying a carousel towards him, and he's just what the fuck, and runs away. As they come, as if they have no response to him running around naked. He's completely naked in this scene. He runs up to a house, and in the dirt is just this leg and foot just sticking out of the dirt. They didn't even try to hide the fact that they killed one of the Americans. And I think this is... yes, it was Josh's foot in the dirt. So he runs to another house around there, a shed. And in the chicken shed, he sees Simon's body spread-eagled, hanging from these flower rope thingies. And there's actually a name for what they did to him here. I forgot what it's called. Something like an eagle something, or... I'm not sure. If I find it out, I'll probably put it in the text on the screen right here. And what they did was they cut his body open from the back and pulled his lungs out like wings. And he was still breathing while cut open with his lungs hanging out in this very bird-like position, while these chickens are feasting on his insides. Really fucking disgusting. And when I watched this with my best friend Danny, she told me that this may or may not actually be scientifically possible, but no one's actually willing to be a subject to test this, so we don't know for sure, and rightfully so. Let's not even test that, because gross. Simon is still alive while this is happening. He's cut open, he's unable to move. They even took his eyes out and put flowers in there. It's really fucked up. But you can see his lungs still breathing even though they're outside of his body. Ugh. Woo. Yikes. So of course Christian is super freaked out by this, and he goes to see who it is exactly, sees it's Simon, and he turns back around, and this dude, like, blows some sleep powder into his face. Now, we cut back to Danny, and she's even more dolled up in flowers right now. Like, this is like a cape, a whole dress, like, everything is just, like, draped over her insanely. Like, it looks like it's weighing her down, honestly. Kind of like she is a big flower bush. Like, she's not even a person anymore. And Christian wakes up to his surprise of being completely paralyzed as well from the powder. And Christian and Danny are looking around, and we see what happened to every other character. Connie's body's been stuffed with plants, and they're just like pushing her on a cart. She's dead, obviously. Asshole dude's face was skinned off and put onto this like scarecrow plant looking thing with like this like jester hat, and it's really goofy looking. Mark, that was his name, Mark. Josh seems to have suffered a similar fate as Mark. And they also bring in Simon's body. I guess he is completely killed off now. And the two elder 72-year-olds that jumped off, they also had their bodies mutilated in a sort of way that they like mixed it with plants and stuff. They made like arms of branches and like legs of hay and stuff, and they like put like these clothes on them with their like skinned faces or heads or beheaded heads, and everything's like stuffed with plants or fruits. It's really fucking creepy, and they're putting them all in this little cabin shed house thing. And Danny is given the choice to have a member of the clan be the final sacrifice, or her piece of shit boyfriend. Sure enough, Danny picks her piece of shit boyfriend because she caught him cheating, and on top of that, he's just been a big asshole this entire time. So you guys remember that random bear from earlier? Well, they disemboweled the bear and end up stuffing piece of shit boyfriend into the bear's body. Piece of shit boyfriend is still alive, however, he's just paralyzed still. So they put him into the bear's body, put him in the center of everyone else's completely mutilated body / plant creation things that they all made, and they light the whole cabin on fire. And this is the part that I mentioned I would come back to earlier. Well, I said I would come back to it later, but this, like, earlier in the video I said I would come back to it later. You get it? Yeah. Two of the clan's members, I guess, offered themselves as, I guess they needed 2 more sacrifices or something as well. They offered themselves. What the clan did was give them this medicine or drug of sorts, and they told them that it's going to make it to where you don't feel yourself burning when you're burning along with these other people in this shed. And of course, the 2 clans members that volunteered believe them because they have a lot of faith in what, everything that they, have lived with and stand for. And this seems to be the biggest jab at religion, because the 2 men that volunteer are paralyzed from the drug or the, whatever it was that they were given to not feel anything. And they're looking at each other. As they start burning, you can hear them start screaming in agony because they obviously can feel the pain of burning alive. Like, the clan lied to them when they told them that they weren't gonna feel a thing when they started burning alive. Again, I feel like this is the biggest jab at religion because you're told this huge bucket of lies that all sounds real nice and pretty, and like you're gonna believe it, and they tell you just have faith, just believe. But then when you get down to the nitty-gritty and, it really comes down to it, everything they've told you up until then is just that. It's a lie. And I really love how they implemented that statement here. Like, this scene exemplifies that moral of the story, basically, of religion. You can't really put your faith in these things that you don't know for sure, because it can just screw you over in that. And at the same time that this burning is happening, everyone in the clan outside is screaming. So you can't hear the people screaming inside, the 2 men that volunteered and are still alive. And then we get a last shot of Danny, who is looking upon the flames of this burning pyramid house thing, as her boyfriend and all of the people that she knew coming here are all dying and burning alive. And it seems to be at this moment when she lets out a big smile that she feels accepted by this clan and like she belongs somewhere, I guess, because she felt the way that they shared in her feelings. And I guess now it seems appealing to her because, she's lost everything at this point. She's lost everything. She has nothing else. That I guess now she just accepts, you know, this sounds like a good life to live now. Like this, I actually have something I can build here because these people have offered their hand out to me. That's my interpretation of it. I think that explains really well why she let out a big smile at the end. Like she's starting a new life and it's gonna be a better life than what she lived before. Hopefully. Personally, I say this a lot, but personally, I don't agree. I think she should go back to America and find some real friends, find a real boyfriend, and live a good life, you know, in a good place. Girl, move your ass to New York City. That's all I'm saying. Like, it is great here. I'll be your friend. Shit. I don't know if I can fit 2 Dannys in my life, though. Believe me, 1 is enough. But yeah, that was Midsommar, and I've been talking so long about this, I'm starting to lose my voice, which is crazy. Yep, my second favorite horror movie. To summarize, what I love about this movie is Ari Aster's directing. The acting is also A1. I particularly liked Danny's acting in this movie. Shoutouts to Florence Pugh, who played Danny. I love the visuals, the colors used in the film, how it really accentuates the natural beauty of the world. And also the use of symmetry with the structures that the clan has created to kind of accompany the natural beauty of the world they live in. I love the genuine horror elements. It's not cheap scares, it's genuine horror, like seeing someone's lungs ripped out but they're still alive and breathing with those lungs. People disappearing and later you see that their bodies were just like heavily mutilated. Fear of the unknown, going into an unknown land and just like everything is super different with these people who have a completely different belief system and lifestyle than anything you've ever known, and how these terrible things that they do kind of really contrast with the beautiful area that they live in. And I also really love the statements on religion. Again, I still think Hereditary is better, and I liked Hereditary more, but this is, for a follow-up, to really come on this strong right after Hereditary is astounding. Like, you can't downplay that. This is a good sign that Ari Aster really knows their shit. And I look forward to more movies by them. But what did you guys think about the movie? I'm assuming most of you who have watched this video have seen it before, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Also, let me know what movie you want to see me talk about next. I can talk about Hereditary if you guys are interested in that. I still have 47 Meters Down Uncaged, you know, on my queue for a movie talk, or anything else. Just let me know. While you're at it, please. It's a lot of work to make these videos. More work than you might think, honestly. So please leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm gonna take this time now to give a shout out to my patrons. You guys supporting me on Patreon, like, godsend. Thank you. Seriously, every little bit helps, and it's really endearing to know that there are people that support me out there. Enough so to do so monetarily. Again, it means the world. Thank you so much. If you're viewing this and you also want to become a patron of mine, I have the link in the description down below as well as at the end of this video. You can also follow me on all my social media. I have them linked in the description. And until the next video, I will see you guys next time.